There are moments in life when your tears say more than your tongue ever could. You sit in the quiet corners of your room, whispering prayers that even your own heart struggles to form. You feel forgotten, unseen, unheard, but let me tell you something powerful. God hears even your silence. He reads your tears like a language. He understands your pain even when you don't have the strength to explain it. Never doubt the one who wrote your story before you even started living it. The delay is not a denial. The silence is not his absence. Sometimes the loudest move of God comes wrapped in stillness. You might be crying in the dark right now, but don't let your pain convince you that you are alone. Heaven is listening to your whispers. There are seasons in life when everything around you goes quiet. You pray, you cry, you call out, and all you hear is silence. It feels like heaven closed its doors and turned off the lights. But silence does not mean absence. Just because you can't hear God doesn't mean he's not moving. Sometimes the quiet seasons are the most sacred seasons, the ones where you are not being abandoned, but being prepared. Think about it. When a teacher gives a test, the classroom gets silent. The teacher doesn't leave. They just stop talking because it's time for you to apply what you've already learned. Life works exactly the same way. When God seems quiet, it's not because he's forgotten you. It's because you're in a moment of examination. You're in a moment of stretching. You're in a moment where faith must walk without feelings. When the gardener plants a seed, the seed goes under the soil. It's dark down there, no sound, no light, no applause. But that's where the miracle starts. From the outside, it looks like nothing's happening. But beneath the surface, everything is changing. Roots are forming. The seed is expanding. It's preparing to break through. That's what God's silence feels like. You think you're buried, but you're actually planted. And in due time, what's been hidden will rise. You might be in that soil season right now. You're crying in private, showing up in public with a brave face, trying to make sense of the stillness. But let me tell you, the same God who was with you in the celebration is with you in the confusion. He doesn't stop working when you stop hearing. In fact, he often does his greatest work behind the scenes. Just because you can't see the process doesn't mean there's no progress. When you put bread in the oven, you can't see what's happening inside, but that doesn't mean the heat isn't working. Sometimes God's silence is the oven of faith. You may not see it rising yet, but when the timer goes off, the fragrance will fill your life with purpose. Too many people give up when things get quiet. They assume quiet means quit. But quiet means question your patience, not God's presence. That's where many lose their miracle right before it arrives. Have you ever noticed that right before dawn, it's the darkest? That's how God's timing works. The night will fight its hardest just before the morning comes. Don't misinterpret the darkness. It's just a prelude to light. The delay is not a denial. The silence is not rejection. It's a signal, a divine pause that prepares you for divine purpose. You may feel like your prayers are hitting the ceiling, but remember, the silence is not empty. It's loaded with answers you haven't seen yet. Sometimes God withholds the explanation because if you understood it too early, you'd interfere with what he's building. Imagine a sculptor working on marble. To the marble, it feels like destruction. Chisel after chisel, cut after cut. But the sculptor sees beauty inside the stone. That's how God works. His silence is his focus. When he's quiet, he's carving. When he's not speaking, he's shaping. Don't be discouraged when you can't hear him. Be alert, because that's when he's often doing his best work. It's like when your phone downloads an update, the screen goes black. It looks frozen, but behind the darkness, systems are being renewed. And when it restarts, everything runs smoother. That's what's happening to your life. God is upgrading you silently. He's strengthening you in stillness. You may not notice, but something inside you is maturing, growing, stabilizing. This silent season teaches you how to depend on faith rather than feelings. Feelings change. Faith remains. God doesn't need to shout when you already know his voice. You've been in this walk long enough to know his character. Even if you can't trace his hand, you can trust his heart. That's maturity, trusting when you don't understand, believing when there's no sign, moving forward when there's no map. Look at your own life. Think of every painful delay, every unanswered prayer, every time you thought it was over. Yet somehow, when you look back, you realize that the silence was protection. That person who left, that job that ended, that door that closed, it was all part of a divine redirection. If God had answered every prayer you cried, you'd be stuck in places that weren't meant for your destiny. His silence is not punishment, it's mercy. He's keeping you from what could destroy you prematurely. So instead of resenting the silence, start respecting it. There's revelation in the quiet. That's where your faith grows roots. That's where you learn to hear the whispers of direction instead of the noise of distraction. When everything around you goes still, it's because heaven is tuning your frequency. You're being aligned for what's next. Don't rush the silence. Rest in it. Because one day, when God speaks again, it'll all make sense. When you finally come out of the quiet, you'll realize that the silence was not a setback. It was a setup. It was teaching you patience. It was building your spiritual stamina. It was developing your inner strength. While you were crying, he was crafting. While you were doubting, he was designing. While you were waiting, he was working. And when the time is right, the same silence that once scared you will make you smile because you'll finally understand that it was never empty. It was echoing with purpose all along. Pain is one of the greatest paradoxes of life. It breaks you, yet it builds you. It humbles you, yet it strengthens you. It makes you cry, yet it teaches you how to rise. Everyone wants growth, but no one wants pain, yet you cannot have one without the other. You see, pain is not your enemy, it's your messenger. It's the voice that says, something inside you is transforming. Without pain, there would be no maturity. Without pain, you would never appreciate peace. Without pain, you would never know your own strength. When a diamond is found, it's just a piece of rough carbon. It doesn't sparkle, it doesn't shine. It's dirty, dull, and buried deep under pressure. But once it's cut, refined, and put through intense heat, its brilliance emerges. That's exactly what pain does to you. It brings out the beauty that was hidden beneath your comfort. You can't discover your purpose in ease, you find it in endurance. Every painful experience you've been through wasn't sent to destroy you, it was sent to develop you. Think about a butterfly. Before it flies, it must struggle out of its cocoon. If someone helps it too soon, it will never fly because the struggle was meant to strengthen its wings. The same is true for you. You've been fighting, you've been crying, you've been wondering why life keeps testing you, but that resistance is what's giving you power. You're not being punished, you're being prepared. Pain is the gym of the spirit. It builds muscles you didn't know you had. Every tear that fell was training you for a higher level of strength. Sometimes pain is the only thing that wakes us up. We ignore lessons when they're whispered, but we pay attention when they're screamed through heartbreak, failure, or loss. You prayed for growth, and God allowed pain because growth and comfort don't live in the same house. He didn't send the pain to break you. He allowed it to reveal you. You don't really know what you're capable of until you've survived something that was meant to destroy you. The most powerful people aren't those who've never been hurt, but those who turn their hurt into healing for others. Look back at your life for a moment. Every time you were disappointed, betrayed, or misunderstood, it felt unbearable, didn't it? But somehow, you're still here. And not only are you here, but you're wiser, stronger, softer. You learned what to tolerate, what to walk away from, and what truly matters. Pain gave you perspective. It taught you the difference between who's with you for convenience and who's with you through conviction. It showed you how to survive when your plans fell apart. When you face pain, it forces you to see life differently. You start valuing peace more than attention. You start cherishing moments more than money. You stop chasing validation and start embracing your own worth. That's the purpose of pain, to purify your priorities. Some people only find their strength after everything else is stripped away. Pain cleans the heart of pride and polishes the soul with humility. It turns victims into victors, followers into leaders, and dreamers into doors. There's a saying, the wound is the place where the light enters. That means the very area that hurts the most might be where your greatest purpose will emerge. Some of your deepest pain came to create compassion within you. You can't truly comfort others until you've cried yourself. You can't lift others until you've known what it feels like to fall. That's why sometimes God allows you to feel pain, not because He's cruel, but because He's building in you what comfort could never produce. You can't teach endurance from a textbook. It must be lived. Imagine a potter molding clay. It's pressed, shaped, stretched, and sometimes completely broken to be remade again. But every time it's remade, it becomes more valuable, more refined, more beautiful. That's how life works. Pain is the hand of the potter. When you're being stretched, it's because He's enlarging your capacity. When you're being broken, it's because He's creating a new design. You may not understand it while you're spinning on the wheel, but one day you'll look back and realize that every press had purpose. Don't waste your pain by running from it or numbing it. Sit with it, learn from it, let it speak. Because if you listen closely, your pain will tell you what needs to change. Maybe it's teaching you to let go. Maybe it's teaching you to forgive. Maybe it's teaching you to finally believe in yourself again. Pain has a language, and those who learn to understand it become unstoppable. You'll meet people who seem happy, confident, and radiant, but if you ask them about their journey, they'll tell you about nights they cried themselves to sleep, days they doubted their worth, moments they almost gave up. Greatness doesn't come from ease, it's forged through endurance. Pain is not proof of weakness, it's evidence of transformation. Every scar you carry tells a story of survival, of lessons learned, of faith strengthened. Don't look at pain as punishment, look at it as preparation. Some things in life you can only learn through loss. Some wisdom only comes from wounds. Every painful moment is shaping a part of you that success never could. You're being prepared for the weight of your future, and the greater the destiny, the greater the refining. So instead of asking, why me? Start asking, what is this teaching me? Because when you shift from pity to purpose, your pain becomes power. One day, you'll look back on this season and realize that the nights you cried were the nights heaven was rewriting your strength. You'll realize that the same pain that made you question your worth became the reason you found your purpose. Every heartbreak, every rejection, every tear, they were all preparing you for a version of yourself that could stand tall in the face of anything. Pain is not meant to last forever, but its lessons are eternal. It doesn't just change what you go through, it changes who you become through it. There are moments in life when words fail you completely. You try to pray, but the pain in your chest is so heavy that nothing comes out. You open your mouth, but the only sound that escapes is silence. You sit there staring at the ceiling or holding your face in your hands, and the tears start to fall one by one. You think you're alone, but what you don't realize is that every tear carries a message straight to heaven. God reads tears like a language. They are not meaningless drops of water. They are liquid prayers, silent confessions, emotional expressions that speak what your tongue cannot. You may not be able to say what's wrong, but your tears are saying it for you. They carry your pain, your exhaustion, your confusion, and your surrender all at once. There's a reason tears come when words can't. They are your soul's way of releasing what your heart can't carry alone. You can hide your emotions from people, but not from God. People see your smile and assume you're fine. They see you posting, laughing, showing up, but they don't see the nights you cry yourself to sleep. They don't see the moments you sit quietly in your car, trying to gather the strength to face another day. They don't hear the whisper of your spirit saying, God, please help me. But he does. He hears every unspoken word. He sees every hidden tear. He knows what you're trying to say, even when you don't know how to say it. You might not have the perfect words, the perfect prayer, or the perfect attitude, but your tears are enough. When life becomes too heavy to explain, God translates every drop. When no one understands, he does. Have you ever felt so heartbroken that even speaking felt impossible? That's when heaven listens the loudest. Because tears have a sound that only God can hear. He knows the difference between a tear of grief, a tear of guilt, a tear of fear, and a tear of faith. You may think those nights you cried alone were wasted, but they weren't. Every tear that fell was a seed. And like rain falling on soil, it's watering something beneath the surface. You might not see what's growing yet, but your tears are nourishing your future. Painful moments often produce the most powerful breakthroughs. When you cry and say nothing, heaven takes notes. When you weep in silence, angels record every tear. Nothing is lost. Nothing is unseen. Sometimes people tell you to stop crying, to be strong, to hold it together. But real strength isn't holding back your tears. It's letting them fall and still choosing to trust. There's power in tears. They cleanse the heart. They release the soul. They speak truth. Don't be ashamed of them. They mean you still care. They mean you still believe. They mean your spirit is still alive. Think of a mother whose child is sick. She sits in a hospital waiting room, staring at the clock, her eyes filled with tears. She's not saying anything, but her tears are screaming 1,000 words, words of love, fear, hope, and desperation. That's how God sees you. He doesn't need the explanation. He understands the language of emotion. He feels the weight behind every tear that leaves your eyes. Sometimes your tears are not a sign of weakness, but a form of worship. They're proof that even in your pain, you still believe someone is listening. You're saying, I don't know how, but I still trust you. Every drop that falls is an act of faith, a declaration that even when you don't understand, you won't let go. When you cry in private, it doesn't mean you're forgotten. It means you're in the presence of the one who understands you completely. He is not moved by eloquent words or fancy speeches. He's moved by sincerity. And nothing is more sincere than tears. They don't lie. They come straight from the soul. You can fake a smile, but you can't fake a tear. That's why they are so powerful. There are things you've been through that no one knows about because you've never spoken them out loud. But every tear you cried during those moments was a message sent to heaven. God understood the chapters of your story that you never shared. He read every line your tears wrote, and he's already writing the response. You may not see it yet, but your tears are creating movement in realms you can't see. Some of your greatest breakthroughs will come after your deepest cries, because tears have a way of softening the heart, making it fertile for miracles. They wash away pride, fear, and control, leaving you open to receive what you truly need. You'll notice that after crying, something shifts. The pain may not vanish immediately, but you feel lighter, calmer, more at peace. That's not coincidence. That's the language of the soul being understood by the spirit. Even science tells us tears contain stress hormones, meaning every time you cry, your body is literally releasing pain. That's not weakness, that's wisdom. It's nature's way of healing. But for those who believe, it's more than biology. It's spiritual release. It's communication between your spirit and its creator. You've had moments when you said, no one understands me, but that's not true. There is one who does. He doesn't need your explanation. He knows your story from beginning to end. Your tears are not random. They are spiritual data, divine messages sent in a language that only heaven can decode. Every tear you've shed has meaning. Everyone has purpose. Some of your tears are watering the very ground you'll one day dance on. Some of your tears are washing away the pain that would have poisoned your future. Some are planting seeds of strength for the person you are becoming. You might be crying now, but your tears are not the end. They are the ink God uses to write your next chapter. Faith is one of the hardest yet most powerful things you will ever learn in life. It is easy to trust when everything makes sense, when the bills are paid, when the doors open, when the plan works, when people keep their promises. But real faith begins where logic ends. Real faith is when you stand in the dark and still believe the light exists. It's when everything around you is shouting, "It's over," but your heart whispers, "Keep going." Faith is not built in comfort. It's forged in confusion. It grows when answers disappear, when clarity fades, when you are left with nothing but a whisper that says, "Hold on." When life hits you with the unexpected, a loss, a betrayal, a closed door, your mind starts asking questions. Why me? Why now? Why this? But faith doesn't demand answers. Faith chooses trust. Faith says, even if I don't understand it, I will still walk through it. That's the kind of faith that changes lives. Because anyone can believe when everything looks beautiful, but the strongest faith is proven when life looks broken. It's in those moments when you feel lost that faith becomes your map. Think about it. When a child jumps into their father's arms, they don't calculate the distance or analyze the risk. They just jump because they trust. That's faith. It's the choice to trust beyond what you can explain. In life, you won't always understand the timing, the detours, or the disappointments, but you're not supposed to. If you could understand everything, it wouldn't be faith. It would be certainty, and certainty doesn't grow you. It comforts you, but it doesn't transform you. Faith, on the other hand, stretches you beyond what's safe. It breaks the boundaries of logic and invites you to believe in the impossible. There will be days when you'll look at your situation and say, "This makes no sense," and it won't. You'll pray and see nothing change. You'll hope and watch doors close. You'll believe and still feel broken. But faith is trusting that even when nothing is moving on the outside, something is shifting on the inside. Just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's not happening. The seed doesn't sprout the moment it's planted. It takes time underground before it breaks the surface. Your life works the same way. Faith grows beneath the surface long before it blossoms in public. Sometimes faith looks like standing still when you want to run. It's saying, "I don't know how, but I know who." It's believing that the plan is still working even when it looks like it's falling apart. There are seasons when you'll walk through storms you never asked for, but those are the seasons where your trust matures. Because when the waves rise and you still stand, that's when faith is proven real. Faith doesn't mean you won't feel fear. It means you'll choose to move forward despite fear. Courage is not the absence of doubt. It's the decision to believe something greater than your doubt. Every person who ever achieved something significant did so through uncertainty. The business owner who risked it all, the mother who raised her child with no guarantee of success, the dreamer who kept creating after every failure. That's faith in motion. Sometimes faith looks foolish. It looks like building an ark when there's no rain. It looks like starting again after losing everything. It looks like smiling when your heart is aching. But faith isn't supposed to look logical. It's supposed to look supernatural. Because faith doesn't rely on what you see. It relies on what you believe. It says, "I may not know what tomorrow holds, but I know who holds tomorrow." In daily life, you exercise faith more than you realize. You get on a plane without seeing the pilot. You sit in a chair without testing its strength. You drive through the fog even though you can't see the whole road. You just trust the headlights to take you step by step. That's what faith is, trusting step by step. You don't need to see the whole staircase to take the first step. You just need to know the one who built it. Some of you are standing in that fog right now. You don't know where this road is leading. You're wondering if the pain will ever end, if the dream will ever happen, if the waiting will ever make sense. But faith says, keep walking. Even when you can't see 5 feet ahead, the light will always show you just enough for the next step. You don't need to understand everything to trust. You just need to keep moving with belief that every step has meaning. Faith is trusting that the delay is divine. It's realizing that what feels like rejection is actually redirection. Sometimes God closes doors not to punish you, but to protect you. Sometimes he holds you back not because he's forgotten you, but because he's preparing you. The problem is we want faith without waiting. We want promises without process. But faith grows stronger only through process. If everything came easy, your trust would stay shallow. It's the waiting that deepens your roots. When life feels uncertain, faith whispers, stay. When your plans crumble, faith says, be still. When you lose what you love, faith reminds you there's more ahead. That voice inside of you, the one that refuses to quit even when you want to give up, that's faith. It's not loud, but it's powerful. It's not visible, but it's victorious. Faith is not emotion, it's decision. You decide to believe that somehow even this chaos is part of a bigger picture. Look around you. The most beautiful masterpieces took time, patience, and trust in the process. The artist doesn't panic when the canvas looks messy midway. He knows the strokes have purpose. In the same way, faith is seeing beauty in the unfinished, believing that your story isn't over even when the page looks blank. You may not see it yet, but faith assures you that there's meaning in the mess, light in the darkness, and purpose in the pain. Faith is not about knowing everything. It's about trusting despite knowing nothing. It's standing on the edge of uncertainty and saying, I'll jump because I know who's catching me. It's letting go of control, surrendering your plans, and choosing to believe that somehow it's all leading to something greater. It's not easy, but it's worth it, because every time you choose faith over fear, something inside you becomes unshakable. There comes a moment when life pushes you to your knees and you realize that's the perfect position to rise. You've cried, you've doubted, you've wondered why things turned out the way they did. But let me remind you of something powerful. Every storm you've survived is proof that you're stronger than what tried to break you. You didn't come this far just to quit. You came this far because there's something inside you that refuses to die. Never doubt God. When you can't trace his hand, trust his heart. The same God who saw your tears last night is the one who's preparing your breakthrough today. Sometimes he delays not to deny, but to develop. He holds you in the waiting season because there's something he wants to strengthen in you before he shows you what's next. Listen, your pain is not wasted. Your tears are not forgotten. Your prayers are not unheard. Heaven keeps receipts of your struggle. There's not a tear that falls without purpose, not a cry that goes unnoticed. The same ground that once held your tears will one day hold your testimony. You are not behind schedule. You are right where you need to be for what God is preparing in you. Stop comparing your journey to others. Flowers don't compete. They bloom in their own season. You will bloom too, and when you do, it will make sense why you had to go through so much soil before you saw the sun. So dry your eyes, lift your head. The pain you feel is not the end. It's the echo of transformation. The waiting is not punishment, it's preparation. You are being positioned for something beyond imagination. The strength you built in private will shock the world in public. Never doubt the process, because the process is proof of purpose. Sometimes God breaks you to rebuild you stronger. Sometimes he closes doors because where you're going, not everyone can follow. Sometimes he lets people misunderstand you so that you learn to depend only on his understanding. So the next time you cry, remember this: your tears are seeds. Every drop will produce something beautiful. Don't curse the darkness. Use it to find your light. Don't resent the pain. Let it refine your power. Never doubt God, because the same God who allowed the storm will command it to stop. The same God who watched you break will restore you with double strength. Your silent tears are the soundtracks of your next victory. Keep going. Keep believing. You may be crying now, but soon you'll be shining. The delay is divine. The silence is sacred. The pain is purposeful. And the ending will be worth every tear you ever cried.